Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. It is great to see you. Happy Friday night. Welcome back to Cocktail Night. It has been a while, hasn't it? Gosh, I think it's been 3 weeks. So last month we were here together for Cocktail Night. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? It is great to see you back. Welcome back, everybody. We're having a bit of a heat snap. As usual, I don't know if it's me or if it's the weather. So I have got the window open. I've got the fan very subtly hitting me, and I'm hoping you can't hear it while we run a show that I think will be a great show tonight. Tonight we are going to catch up first. I was thinking, I was gone for a long time, and we're together often. And I just wanted to do the quickest ever run through some of the highlights of the time that I was away. A lot of you are friends with me on Facebook, but I just wanted to bring you through the quickest ever tour of Cape Cod so you can see what I mean. This keeps slipping. Hang on. Let me see. Hold on 1 second. I don't want to do anything bad, but it feels like either I'm going like this or it's going like this. So I want to bring you through some of the best photos that I have because you will see a lot of them in the future as soon as we I hate to think of things in terms of getting through things and finishing projects, but in my head, life is a series of projects about hooked rugs, and they are all group projects. So I think of them in terms of eras, right? The era of the Halloween rugs, aka the book The Haunted Rug, is coming at you very soon and very fast. And after that, we're working on the Roses rug. I don't know if we have said that, but I will be working on some other rugs a little bit later, and many of them will be compositions that I thought of while I was on the Cape. So I want to run through those 2 weeks that I was gone with you very quickly, and then I want to jump on top of this book, which is a remarkably good book. I'm still slipping. I don't know if you can see it. Oh, it's behind me. Why am I holding it up? It's behind me. 3 Centuries of Hooking, Mount Desert Island. So this is Maine. Historical Society exhibition, August 2nd, 2009. And the book is compiled and written by curator Judith Burger-Gossart. And this, like many of the books that I have, is published by Blurb. So I believe it's like a print on demand. It's an incredibly high quality book. We're going to look at it together. Published by Blurb. This was the same as the Theodore Sizer, published by Blurb. This one was not as pricey as the Theodore Sizer one. This isn't a huge book, but man, is it packed with some goodness. So we're going to be looking at this together and doing a little bit of catching up together. But before we start, cheers, my dears. This is not a glass of vodka. This is only a glass of water, I promise. I have to go to my nephew's wedding this weekend, and I feel like, hold on, I'm turning the wrong thing. I feel like a 10-pound sausage in a 5-pound sack. So I'm trying to take it easy with the calories, if you see what I mean. So let me do some good evenings and catch up with all the buddies here. Huge welcome to those of you who are new and coming in. This is a slightly different episode because we're looking at vacation photos for the beginning of the episode. I typically don't do that. We typically talk about rugs, and more rugs. But I was gone for quite a while. Becky, it is great to see you. Yay, Friday night, sitting in a nice cool house while my husband mows the lawn. This is way more fun. Sounds like a good scenario. Excuse it, just kidding. He's in for the night, that's for sure. Cheryl, great to see you. Cheers, my dears. Oh, you've got blueberry wine. And such a great night to explore this book with such an interesting cover. It is an interesting book. This is driving me crazy. What is going on here? Hold on, I just did something. Maybe that was it. All right, there we go. I'm sorry about that. You know how crazy I get when things are not level. It really is a precious looking book. It has an intriguing cover. And what I love about it, so we're going to get into this conversation in a second, but what I love about it is this is going to be a cozy historic episode. We're looking at mostly antique rugs, right? I think these are going to be all antique rugs, but such a great selection of rugs and such a great reminder that in Maine, we are looking at right at the top of the country, right? I know you know that. We're looking at both a mix of Grenfell rugs, Waldoboro rugs, and some of the earliest hooked rugs, naive, they say in this book, untrained, but meaning not taught. People, who have no art background in the 1860s, 1870s, making rug compositions just from the heart, seat of the pants in the heart. So it really is such a beautiful book. It's so different, and I've enjoyed it immensely. I haven't really read through it yet. I've skimmed it, so I'm going to read bits and pieces together while we're here tonight. And Linda B, happy Friday night. I have to be wondering now, Cheryl, is that blueberry wine, is it a red wine? Because I see the little red wine emoji. I'm wondering if it's white or red. I love blueberry beer, so I think I would be loving blueberry wine. I love strawberry wine. I love fruit wines. I love flower wines. So I'm thinking I would love blueberry wine in the summer. In the summer. Oh, I'm thirsty. Linda B, happy Friday evening from Jersey. Much needed rain passing through. We were expecting to get it earlier today and we didn't. So that's probably where this big buildup of heat is coming from. It's not the worst. Don't let me complain. I just said that, right? It has been so mild and temperate. I can't complain. Michelle, great to see you. Happy Friday, y'all, from Texas. Hot outside, but just right inside. That's all that matters, right? Ryan, also from Texas. Happy Friday. Hot and sunny, North Texas. Tuning in poolside. Oh, stop it. With a rosemary and grapefruit mocktail. Oh, that sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. I love rosemary. I love rosemary in cocktails. It's like one of my great things. And I love grapefruit juice also in cocktails, not really on its own, but I bet I would love a mocktail. That sounds fantastic. Peace and love to you too. Deborah, great to see you. Good evening in Minnesota. Super happy to see you. Olivia, great to see you. Good evening and happy cocktail night from Ireland. Midnight there. You'll do your best to stay awake. See how it goes. Kaz, great to see you. Happy cocktail night from Wisconsin. Beautiful sunny evening there. Oh, I can just picture it at your house. You can just picture it out in your back garden. It must be really, really pretty over there right now. Mom, you tuned in. Happy Friday night. All the rain has petered out. We didn't even get it, Mom. I'm only an hour away. Everything is so flowery and green. Summer on our doorstep. Happy cocktail night. You too. Oh, I thought that was the end. Nope, more buddies here. Melanie, great to see you. Hello from cool and windy. Ooh, you're getting some nice wind. Washington, happy Friday night to you too. April, happy Friday night. Happy cocktail night in Illinois. Dawn, great to see you in Southeast Michigan. Happy Friday night. Catherine, cheers, my dears. We did our thing this morning. I hope you saw that. And I'm sending you The Trouble with Harriet. Cheers, my dears, from sunny and hot California, I bet. Christine, great to see you too. Happy Friday night. So good to see you again. Hugs from New Hampshire. Hugs to you too. Good to see you too. Joyce, happy cocktail night from rainy Pennsylvania. So that's where it is. Okay. It's great to see you, Joyce. Welcome back, Dawn. That makes a Grenfell rug. What makes a Grenfell rug different? That's a very good question. I'm going to save that one for a few minutes from now. That's a great question. Diane, hi there. Happy you are back tonight. Me too. It feels good to be back. I'm back in the kids' playroom on my set with the green screen behind me, just so you know where I am. I was in the studio either yesterday or the day before, and it occurred to me it has been a really long time since I have done a show at the Mantle. So I need to do that. Maybe this week we'll go do that there. Cheryl, barefoot fruitscato. Fruitscato, how nice is that? Blueberry and cranberry choices. Ooh. Oh, Barefoot, the brand. Oh, you're kidding me. I thought you meant you were Barefoot. Barefoot, the brand. Oh, you're kidding. I'm going to have to check that because I love blueberry and cranberry. That would have to be a both. Not at the same time, but that would have to be a both. Uh-oh, Dave. What have you got going on up there? Happy evening. Great weather in Toronto. You didn't tell us what you're eating and drinking. It is always to die for. Gayla, great to see you. Hello and welcome back. Let me have one more sip. It has been a bit of a nonstop day. It has been super busy times here. Yesterday was the kids' last day of school, and it was a half day. And I was very busy at work here for the Cape Cod photos rather than the cocktails. Hi, Barbara. Good to see you. I was busy at the studio, and the kids finished their half day. All good. You know, they came home. And the message I got from my husband when I got home was that Teddy was on a sleepover. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned this, but we have a big problem with sleep in this house. It is like the last sort of vestige of the extreme autism for Teddy is the sleeping thing. He gets so visual and obsessed with like dark places in the room. So he is still quite used to co-sleeping, and he cannot sleep if there's no one else in the room with him. So I thought, this is not good, right? Because he's recently been very cool, and happy and had a lot of buddies around him. And now he's going on a sleepover and it might be a disaster. And oh my God. But he was super excited to do it. So I said, fantastic. And I packed up his sleeping bag, his pillows, um, his melatonin gummies, his fan that hits his face and makes white noise, his phone charger, all of his stuff, extension cord, plug in the fan, everything, right? So he was super excited, and it was over at a buddy's house who he hasn't been to before. But I know the mom very well, Eliza. She's fantastic, and her son is fantastic. Just different orbits, different classrooms. So everything went very well. And I said to Teddy, I'm going to leave my phone on in case you need anything. Mom will come pick you up in the middle of the night if there's. I said, if you have any trouble sleeping, right? Not if you're like so scared or you're emotional or you flip a switch or something. So so I left my phone on, but you know how I don't know how to use things with buttons, and I didn't realize that it wasn't making sounds. I mean, calling, yes, but texting, it didn't make a sound. So I woke up as usual at 3:14, and I looked at my phone, and he had written like 10 minutes before, like illiterate writing, like blah, 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 mama, and I was like, and then again a second message that said, "Are you there, mama?" And I was like, uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. So I wrote back right away, I'm right here, Teddy. But it was like 15 minutes earlier. I'm right here, Teddy. Do you need me to come? What's going on? Is everything okay? And he didn't write back. And I stayed awake for so long, just looking at my phone every few minutes because are you there, mama? I mean, it just punched my heart. And he didn't write back. And then I dozed, and he wrote at like 5. And said, it was just hard to fall asleep because there was like, there's five kids in one room. They were all up in the attic. And he had a great time, but man, he didn't sleep. So it was a rough night for me too. And while I was putting the show together, I was laying on the couch because I couldn't really sit up straight. And the cat curled up right in the crook of my legs. And that was it. I was out. I think I slept for 15 minutes, but it felt like 4 hours, which is exactly the kind of nap you want in your life, right? I feel terribly lazy, but it worked out, and I'm able to do the show tonight, so that is the main thing. Oh, Jessica, it's great to see you. Hello in Ohio. Great to see you. Dave, corn muffins and hard cider. That sounds fantastic. I had a can of tuna with some capers, some green olives, and 1 spoonful of mayonnaise. I am so worried about fitting into this dress because I don't have an alternative. At all. This is the only formal dress that I own, and I found it for $7 at a thrift store on Cape Cod, and it fits great, and it is a super nice dress. So I feel I will not be changing between the ceremony and the cocktails or the food. I am a one dress girl when I go to an event. I'm sorry, I don't buy 2 formal dresses. I wouldn't buy 2 formal dresses if John Forsythe rose from the dead and invited me to our wedding. I still wouldn't change my dress. So hopefully it all goes well. Fingers crossed. That's coming up on Sunday. So I won't be able to be with you Monday because we're coming back on Monday. I'm going with my sister to my nephew's wedding. So I'll have to think on how that's going to work. But I won't be there in the morning unless a miracle happens. So to be continued. Be looking at the YouTube channel and also at our Facebook group, which is Raw Cooking and Punch Needle Club, for an update on the next show. Right? It'll be very soon. It's just a question of when. Christy. Oh, Christy, it's great to see you. Much love from Nashville, Tennessee. It's great to see you. Happy Friday night. Welcome. Judy, why in the world do you make them endure a half day? I know it, right? It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Everything is so stupid. Don't you just feel like that sometimes? It's just the way life is right now. Pat says, I'm glad that Teddy had a good time. I think he did. I think he's all set for now with sleepovers because he realizes, I don't want to point these things out to him, but I think he realizes because he was in the attic, he was obsessing about the stairs going down because there's no door. It's just open. That is exactly the kind of situation he can't handle in this house. So a little stressy Bessies, but we got there and I'm so proud of him. He's such a good boy. Such a good boy. Meanwhile, Jocelyn was at home drawing a mustache on her face with a Sharpie that won't come off. Man, it looked fantastic, I have to say. She looks good with a mustache, and it's one of these, like she's laughing and tying some beautiful girl to the train tracks, right, with this mustache like this. Oh boy. All right. So let me catch up with you from the last 2 weeks because I was away on the Cape for a couple of weeks. We take our big family vacation the last week of May and the first week of June. We won't be able to do it forever, but it's because the kids are still young. And I bring all of my hooking stuff. I am ready for inspiration. My heart is open, my eyes are open, everything is alert and happy. That is my happy place. I had such a good time. I was thinking about us, our show, all of the projects that we're working on together. I thought of you many times during this time. So I'm going to do the quickest ever flip through a bunch of photos to show you, couldn't quite get the chronology right, but to show you some of the main things that we did, and maybe it'll bring back some nostalgic feelings for you. Maybe it'll bring forward some ideas about compositions or things you might want to do, very summary subjects I'm about to show you. And I'm going to preface this conversation by saying some of these photos I think are quite pretty composition wise. If you like any of them and you want to use any of them for a composition of yours, you don't have to ask me. I am not a professional photographer. If you like any of these and go, oh, I love the way the sea looks and I love that rock in front of it, I'd love to do that, go ahead and do it. You absolutely have my permission. Anything that you see that you like, go ahead and do it. I hope looking at some of these photos brings you back some good memories. But I want to kind of share with you what we were doing during all this time that I was away, and then we'll shoot into the real content of the night, which is looking at this fantastic rug book. So come with me, and let's see. I'm going to go fast, right? So I'm going to try to look at comments, but I'm going to go fast. Starting a vacation off in a traffic jam. Is that the definition of a vacation? It must be. We got stuck in traffic coming through Providence, and this was my view in the rear view, in the side mirror, for about an hour and a half. But turned out to be a great start. We checked in at our hotel. We sneaked 2 extra nights in Sandwich on Cape Cod. And we stay at a place like a hotel that has a little duck pond behind it. It's like a motel. And they have little porches out back. So it's so nice and mellow to be able to sit back there in the shade with the ducks and geese. There's a little fence so they don't come and bite you, but they still fly over the fence and try to bite you. And I was able to get right ensconced on the back deck with my mom. We had respective back decks, but of course we got together and shared because my mom was there in one room and then we were there in the other room. And I was able to start working on my hooking projects, including this piece that will certainly be in the Halloween book. And I think this one I'm calling the Halloween Queen. Maybe not, because it's very similar to another one I have. We'll see. I got much further with this, but I'm not going to show you too far with these Halloween projects because you know this book project's coming up. We'll talk about that again a little bit later in the show. In those early days when we were in Sandwich and in that part of the Cape, right, closer to the bridge and not far out to the tip, more like off Cape than on Cape, we make a bunch of stops, like this super cute stop where I recorded part of a video for you starting at the graveyard next door. This is in Centerville, so this is the country store in Centerville that dates back to 1856. This building and this shop are older than rug hooking. Isn't that funny? They have a Republicans, Democrats bench out front. We're not even going to start that. But it's such a cute shop, a little more contemporary on the inside, but still that great old vibe. That's in Centerville, which is part of Barnstable, if you know the Cape. We had to go to the oldest ice cream store on the Cape. This photo doesn't show you how crooked and crazy the floors, walls, and ceiling are. It's just fantastic. Teddy and Joss settling in for a good ice cream. They have to my right in this photo a little diner counter where you could get a hot dog or a chili or one of the many flavors of ice cream. I have to say I did not notice all of these colorful shirts there, or I would have bought some swag. I love wearing t-shirts and stuff. I didn't even notice them while I was in there. We went out that side door in the back on the left and I completely missed all that cuteness. That's called the 4 C's. We went over to Thornton Burgess's house. Now, we have talked about Thornton Burgess before. He was a great children's book writer, late 19th century, early 20th century. His illustrator was Harrison, what was it? I think Cady, C-A-D-Y, I think that was it. All the American Peter Rabbit books, not to be confused with Beatrix Potter. Whole different cast of characters, all of them set in this immediate areas. The ponds and marshes around Sandwich, Massachusetts, Cape Cod. So this is Sandwich. This is the back of the house that he lived in as an adult. It's open to the public. There's picnic tables. There's this beautiful pond. Very high water level this year. Normally it's a bit more marshy. Absolutely beautiful. This was, I think, our first full day there, and the kids were dipping their feet in the water. We were looking at the fish. Everything was murky. We drove a little further along Route 6A, which is my favorite road in the world. That's where all the sea captains' houses are, all the antique shops. It's so cute. We always stop at this place called Hallett's. It's a little tiny, old-timey ice cream place, and they also do just a few staples for lunch. Now, it has the original stained glass windows. I'm not putting all the pictures up here, but it's one of those huge country stores with big built-ins, high lofty ceiling, lots of, it was a soda fountain, right? So lots of carving and just a beautiful space. And every time I go in there, we always get shakes and stuff, which is why I'm a 10-pound sausage and a 5-pound sack right now. But we went in and got an ice cream, and the guy who owns it was there this time, and I haven't had this before. And he is a Hallett. The place is called Hallett's. Hallett is one of the oldest family names on Cape Cod, and we got talking as always happens. My life is just a series of chats, right? It's just what I do. It drives the kids crazy because everywhere we go, I get into these long, long conversations. But my God, I love talking to him about his great grandfather who opened this place in the building across the street. That was another business owned by the grandfather. And this little ice cream store, yeah, in the like 1890s or something, was a small chain off Cape as well. It was so interesting hearing about it. He had a scrapbook he took out. He gave me a piece of paper that was from their original accounting book. It was like a receipt. He gave it to me to keep, and I'm using it as a bookmark now. And I also bought the book, right? There's a book that they published on Hallett's. I mean, just so interesting. And I thought one of these days that is going to be a rug for me with the stained glass windows, the beautiful soda fountain, the history of his great grandfather and grandmother, and what an amazing story it was. It was such a good time being in there together. And then we arrived at the pond, and I was able to start doing this is in Chatham, my very favorite thing, which is rowing. I don't do nearly enough of it, but I love to row. And you know who else loves to row? Is this little one, Jocelyn, my daughter. She is 10 now. She loves rowing. She has a whole series of these. These are not wetsuits. These are bathing suits. And it was cold. The water level was the highest I've ever seen it at the pond, and we've been going there for over 40 years. So she's practicing her rowing too. We're doing sort of the Native American type row, one oar at a time. And then we do the standard row, two at one time, but we have different ways of rowing. She likes to get into it, and uh-oh, here comes the money shot as she's about to jump off the back of the boat, which she did because when you are 10 years old, you have no sense of pain at all. And she just swims in the water like it's no problem. And then she gets out on the little beach where we are there at the cabins and sits in the sand in a wet bathing suit for another 4 hours. I just don't get it. I just don't. I think you have to be a kid to understand how that works physically. This is what the view is like from our little cottage on top. My mom has a cottage with my sister and her husband, and I have a cottage with my husband and the two kids. And when we look down to the little pond, this is what we get. This is White Pond in Chatham, and it is one of the deepest ponds on the Cape. I don't know how deep it is. Of course, there's huge flux from year to year, and there are two other ponds to the northwest of this view. The next one is called Blue Pond. It's a lot smaller and warmer, and there's a lot more life in it. And the pond behind Blue Pond is called Carbuncle, and it's like black. It's referred to as Black Pond, so White Pond, Black Pond, Blue Pond. Carbuncle is tiny. It's very warm, murky. You expect to see the Loch Ness Monster come up. It's like murky, murky, murky. If you were to jump in there, you'd get tangled up in seaweed and lily pads and stuff like that. But it is fun, really fun to go. And you usually have to pull the boat through from the second pond to the third pond because the water level is usually not high enough. This year it was just high enough. And this is what we do every night down at the pond because the chorus of the frogs starts. As soon as it's dusk, they start making the most extraordinary noises. You can't miss it. You can put any kind of white noise machine you want on and you are not going to miss the frogs. So we go down there with our flashlights. We are so careful when we touch them, I can promise you. We never hurt animals. We are huge animal lovers. Joss holds them. They often don't want to leave her hands. Her hands are probably very warm. And I have videos of them on Facebook croaking while she's holding them. We hold them very low to the ground, too, in case they jump. So they're never jumping from a distance, ever, 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 ever. I love holding them, too. I love to feel their little sharp little fingers in my hand. They weigh like a feather. They are such lumpy little things. These are toads, not frogs. Super, super cute. Tons of them. Every night the chorus starts. So much fun. And during the day we do things like this, going to flea markets. This is the Wellfleet Flea Market. It is at the drive-in movie theater. I know it. Hardly any of those left. we did I think 3 or 4 flea markets while we were there, and no rugs at all, not a one, not even a bad one. Um, Not even really quilts. I found lots of books. Joss found this. We ended up not getting it. It is a puppet that looks like Buttons, the dog, who was at home with the house sitter. And so she held it up for the picture, but she decided we didn't need another mangy used plush toy. But a lot of fun going to these markets. Lots of antiques, lots of vintage, lots of fun. Always nice breakfast and coffee offered here. And in the evening, they still do the drive-in. So we went to the drive-in on a different night than the flea market, but it's always a double feature. In this case, it was Garfield and I think the Fall Guy. We all went in the car to Garfield, and I fell asleep in the back seat. It was honestly the worst movie I've ever seen. I couldn't believe it because I love Garfield. But so much fun going to a drive, and I wonder if you have memories of doing stuff like this. So much fun. We don't use the boxes. We just tune into the radio station and hope the battery doesn't die on the car. But the little building on the right is the concessions, and it's like they've got everything: burgers, dogs, popcorn, candy, ice cream, anything that you could want to spill in your car, right? So much fun. Lisa, good to see you. Happy Friday night. And then views like this. I took lots of pictures like this because I thought great inspiration shot, very nautical feel, like shopping in Provincetown and looking down into a bucket and seeing these beautiful, I think these are buoys. You think these are buoys? I know people now hang them like in their gardens. They always have the rope on them. So I'm thinking their original intention, they're glass, but they come in all different sizes. I think originally they were larger and they were buoys, although I'm not sure. Oh, there was a Ouija board, Lisa. There was. I remember that in the last one. So really pretty composition ideas. And this also, come on, what are these things called? Are these buoys too? These are also buoys, right? I can't remember. Um, April says, oh, she says, Lisa, I noticed that too. I had one like that when I was a teenager. And to remember back, I think it wasn't last Halloween, it was the Halloween before, I did the episode. We were doing like a tarot and a few mystical, magical episodes in Spooky in October. I think it was not this past one, the one before, and I did an episode on the history of the Ouija board. And we had like patterns and talk that went along with it. It was a fun episode. It was really different. Double feature, Michelle says, yes, Saturday Night Fever and Pink Panther. Now, I'd stay for both of those. I bet the Fall Guy was great, by the way. As soon as we left, it was like Jaws and Goonies or something like that. That would have been fantastic. And once in a while, they play new movies and then they go back to old movies, but such a lot of fun. So I snapped pictures like this the whole way through because I thought, I'm going to want to think about this while I'm working on compositions, color-wise and shape-wise. This is a great motif, something that I really could use for a border. We did a lot of this while we were away. This is actually the ocean, and I'm not a fan. It's beyond freezing. It's dangerously cold, but of course Jocelyn has got to do it. So I forget where we were. I think we were in Yarmouth when we were here, and it was terribly cold. But my main worry is that there are so many sharks on Cape Cod, and they are often viewable from the water, from the shore. They are close. And not just because we watched Jaws, right, at one evening. Here comes the rain. I don't know if you can hear it. It makes me very nervous because the seals are very close to the shore. I don't think you can see any in this picture, but you could actually touch the seals. They swim right with you at the shore. No thank you. As much as I love them, but huge no thank you. And if the seals are there, it means the sharks are there too. So her being in this much is fine. Her being in, most shark attacks happen in 4 feet of water. Did you know that? And I know it's mostly nursing sharks, but still, no thank you. So anything beyond the knees, and I'm calling her back in. That's why we like our pond life. This is a place we always go to, and a great composition idea too. This is Teddy crossing Uncle Tim's Bridge, and this is in Wellfleet. Wellfleet is my favorite town on the Cape. All swampy and pretty on both sides. You cross over to this island, and you can walk straight through that brush. There's this woodland trail. That's what Teddy does, because it goes a little bit up and through the shade of the woods. If you go right along the shore, you see hundreds of horseshoe crabs, mostly dead, all different sizes and ages. It's the season. And you see bazillions of fiddler crabs, hermit crabs, all kinds of little crabs that are coming very close to your feet. Teddy doesn't like that. There's a little wrecked ship on the right side of the island that's been there for about 40 years. We've been looking at it, less and less wood there every year as people pick at it. But you can walk all the way around it and come back up over the bridge. As we were crossing, we saw lots of the horseshoe crabs like this one, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And by the way, with these horseshoe crabs, their big spiky tail is not for stabbing. It is for steering. So it is possible, and Jocelyn does pick these crabs up out of the water carefully. You can only hold them on the sides, right? And it is possible for their legs underneath to touch you. So if that's not for you, don't try it. Jocelyn loves this stuff. While we were crossing the bridge, we saw this little guy in the water. He was about, I'm going to say 4 or 5 inches big, and he was swimming up a storm frantically, and it was because he was trying to make his way onto Mama's back for a ride. So he climbed up on Mama's back, and they disappeared into the marshy brush here. And after they did, I saw a turtle that was a third of the size of that one in the brush. And I tried to get a photo of it, but I just couldn't. It was so small, it was impossible. It looked like it was the size of a quarter. But honest to God, it was the tiniest little turtle, little round shell. I don't know if this is a box turtle or what. I know it's not a painted turtle. Maybe it's a snapping turtle. I don't know my turtles. But God, this was such a cute little view. Later that day, we went to this area to hike, and I recorded a video for you there on the lupines. This is called Fort Hill, and this is the area where this was my dad's favorite place in the world. There's a marshland walking trail that goes through a swampy area, which is so beautiful and froggy and buggy and shady, overhanging trees. A boardwalk going through. Very, very pretty. And then there is like the waterside walk that goes along the water, like the bay and into the woods. Super, super pretty area. And Teddy and Joss taking off to do that. This is where I recorded a video for you for a sketchbook snack, and it was I don't know if the word grove is right, but it was a cluster of lupine and a few different colors, but mostly purple. And we overheard somebody telling a story about how there was a guy years ago in the 1980s who used to walk here all the time, and he sprinkled a bunch of lupine seeds. And after that, it's not every year that they come out. They are cyclic, but I don't know in what way they're cyclic, how many years go by. But this he ended up passing away. He died of AIDS. And all of his friends come every time the lupine are out because they consider this like a grave site or a memorial. He loved these flowers. He planted them. And once in a while, they come back with such drama as they did this year. I've never seen this before. So we go like every year, and I've never seen it look like this. It was so much more than this. This was just a corner of it, but it inspired Jocelyn. You see how much lupine is in the distance there? So she sat down to do a little moment of plein air sketching into her tiny sketchbook, and was sketching the lupine from a distance, and she came back with this sketch. Abstract lupine and 2 of her signature cats. This is the way for the moment that she's drawing her cats. She's going to evolve this sketch, but this was just a quick kind of impression of the lupine. They were stunning. Brewster Country Store, another one of our favorite stops. Lots of country stores on the Cape. This one is beautiful. Teddy took this picture of me out front. It's so nice being inside. Do you remember these old country stores? I went upstairs where it's sort of like a museum, but there's tons of stuff for sale as well. I love noticing stuff like the old signs on the wall, the old ice cream chairs. You see those wiry chairs? Those used to be called like ice cream salon chairs, or there was a specific name for them. Ice cream parlor chairs, right? The really wiry ones. The way that the floor is worn down where people walk around the corner into the next room. All of these beautiful cabinets for storing millinery stuff, spools, everything. One of the room used to have millinery, and it still does, but now it looks like this, right? Millinery and pashmina scarves, but back in the day it would have looked very different. It's still very pretty, and this stuff is for sale. It's carrying on the way, I guess, that the intention always was. They're just updating the inventory, using the same displays like these beautiful cabinets. These must be worth a mint. But you can see the little pegboard next to it with the measuring tape and the tomato and the scissors. Just 2 pairs of scissors, right? 2 pairs of orange scissors. Hey, 3 people need scissors today. Uh-oh, you're out of luck. We've only got 2 pairs. It's just the way it is. Small scale operations, nice old posters. They had this really pretty display that I loved. All these little jars of buttons. I got crazy with buttons this time, I have to tell you. You're going to see a lot of stuff with buttons in the near future coming from me. But lots of interest, lots of little things to look at. And when I came back down the stairs, This is what I saw. Teddy and Jossie at the penny. Of course, it's not a penny. Nothing is a penny in this world. But they were at the penny candy thing, and it's honor system. You grab a bag, a pencil, and a piece of paper, just like mini golf, and you record how much each thing is, and you tally it up, and then you bring it to the counter, and they assume that your math is good, and they just charge you what's on the paper. You know, it's very old-fashioned in the way that these things work. That's what I love about the Cape. In between running around, 99% of the time I'm hooking, but once in a blue moon, I have just found a book, and it's typically a local book, something about Cape Cod history. And at this moment, I'm sitting in the shade for 2 seconds, probably waiting for somebody to come down and get me because we're going to do something else. Because normally I'd be sitting in a chair working on my hooking, but mixing it up. And in the evenings, it looked something like this. Teddy and my husband playing games inside the cabin, different games each night. Card games, board games, so much fun. The TV only went on twice, once to watch Jaws, once to watch Goonies. So that was good. And back down every morning for me at the little pond, I would try to wake up something like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, hours before anybody else woke up. So nobody there but me. And I worked on, I think, 4 different projects for the haunted rug book, the Halloween book. All different ones. I haven't finished any of them, but it felt good to keep kind of rotating between each one. And it felt good to be able to know in my mind when I picked them back up that I started them sitting in the chair with this view, right? It means another layer of sentiment for me and meaningfulness. And of course I stopped at the White Cat where I saw Cheryl and Pat. And Pat, I always forget Pat's cat's name. It's like, I think it's Mojo. So cute. That was a fantastic stop. One of our other regular stops, stopping at Double Dragon, and it's a Chinese restaurant. And we go there once a year, occasionally twice. We all have T-shirts from Double Dragons. Joss is wearing hers backwards, but I noticed this time, and it was kind of funny. We're just such huge corny losers. We go into this Chinese restaurant all with our T-shirts on, and the staff, they recognize us from year to year because it stands out, and we feel like superstars. We're so excited to be there. Love the food. About to order the headhunter. Everything is great. Poo-poo platter, headhunter, all good. And I realized for the first time this time that when I went to get up and go to the bathroom, somebody at a table asked me for something. Because I was wearing the shirt, they thought I was working there because it's also the uniform. I thought, how stupid are we? How corny are we? But it's so much fun. The kids love it. This was an exciting day. I want to tell you this story. This was a great history day for us. I took a couple of days, just me and Ted, because he's getting older and he doesn't want to sit around anymore. He wants to be on the move. And I love history, so he's getting really into history too. We went to the Chatham Historical Museum, which is called the Atwood House. It is the oldest house on Cape Cod. If you are anywhere near the Cape, you have got to go here. I was absolutely blown away. This is where I posted in our Facebook group. I saw that rug under the table and I went back and took some photos. The docent didn't really know what to make of it because she's not used to people going back, so it was making her nervous that I was touching the rug. I asked permission and flipping it over. But next time I go, I'm going to be a bit more vocal in a nice way and try to take better pictures of that rug because it was extraordinary. This place was amazing. It had a full blast museum. It had an incredible little shop where there were lots of interesting books. It had an art gallery that I'll tell you about another time because it changed my life, the work of one artist. And it had the actual Atwood house that you're looking at here that was the oldest house on the Cape, and all this stuff in it. A lot of stuff that's interesting for us too, like swifts and winders and all of that stuff. We went in there. So then this is what happened. This is the story, right? And I'm definitely evolving this into a rug idea. I went in there, and we were in there for 2 hours, right? Looking at the paintings, and Ted is such a good sport, because I was talking to everybody. There were 2 films that played. We watched both. One was about a disaster at sea, the Pendleton, and the other was about the artist who's present in there. I'll tell you about her another time. Amazing. So we did that, and then we did the house tour, and they ended the house tour. They had just purchased a period-appropriate record player, but it was one of those metal discs, you know what I mean, with the sawtooth edge, and it played the Star-Spangled Banner. She pumped it, turned it. It played the Star-Spangled Banner from beginning to end, right? Like, it was so emotional. In this tiny room, this tiny old room, and listening to the music, and oh my God. And then while I was leaving, I was chatting again, and one of the ladies said, "Did you go outside to the camp house?" And I said, "No. What's that?" And I didn't take a picture of the outside of it. I was too excited. But there is a tiny, what looks like a very old she shed on the property right outside the door of the Atwood House, still at the Historical Society. I went in there with Emily, right? She walked me over there. She said, "Oh, I know all about the camp house." This is such a moment in time. I'm telling you, I was not alive in the 40s, 50s, 60s. I was born in 72, but Emily was, and she knew this story about these camp houses. Apparently, starting in the 1940s, post-war, outside of Chatham, it's the ocean, and then there was a very pronounced sandbar. It was very stable. Nobody ever thought it was going to go away. And at that time, it was a very poor community, right? It's not what it is now. It's the wealthiest town on the Cape. It's untouchable. At that time, it wasn't. And coming out of those war years, people who lived in Chatham, they were all laborers. They were mostly fisher people and that kind of thing. They built houses on this sandy bar. And I think Emily said there was something total over the years, something like, I want to say 18 or 20 houses. People from the shore rowed out in boats to the sandbar with materials and with their stuff, right? Stove, furniture, bit by bit, rowed it over there, built the cabins around things like a big potbelly stove or whatever, built things, they built their own houses out there just for the weekends. And they were all neighbors. They were all neighbors during the week. And then on the weekends, they rode out there with their families, no electricity, no plumbing, right through the 1960s. They stayed in those camp houses, and it was another world. I mean, they were like 2-bedroom houses. One room was like the kitchen and living room, and everything is right there on the walls. The camp house that I was okay, let me finish that thought because it's unbelievable. So it was like a moment in time, right? It was a moment. It's just how I picture people used to go camping and have adventures in the 1960s, 1970s. This ended in the 1960s. The whole thing got washed away, right? Over time, all of these houses got washed away. Let's say there were 22, because I don't remember what this exact number was, but I documented it well. There were a few posters like this that are the actual houses that were there. Out of all of them, there are 2 left. One is the one I was standing on because it was about to get washed away. Emily let me take pictures of these posters because I'm totally going to make a schoolhouse style rug with the story of these little camp houses. I was standing in a camp house that was about to be washed away, was rescued, paid for, and deposited on the grounds of the Historical Society, the Atwood House. I was standing in it, and everything in it was just like it was when they last used it in the 1960s, the family. In fact, they wrote a book from it too, and I have the book. I'll have to show it to you another time because I can't remember. Days to Remember. It's called Days to Remember. It has a sketchbook cover. I forget who the author is. I almost had it. Nickerson, something Nickerson. I think it's that. Anyway, it was so amazing standing in this house and just feeling like part of it. And Emily, she was an older person, right? She was telling me things that was like, brought me over to the wall because it's all exposed, right? It's super, super rustic. And the beams, like the construction of it, they were using as shelving, even though it was like a 2x4. And in one part of the kitchen, they had a few booze bottles lined up, and they each had 1 inch of booze in them. And Emily said this was a tradition in all of the camp houses. When you left for the summer, like when you knew you weren't going to come back until the spring when it was warm again, everybody would leave 1 inch of booze in all of their booze bottles, just in case boats wrecked, which they always did because that's the elbow of the Cape, the most dangerous part of the eastern seaboard. So just in case boats wrecked, which they always did, if somebody survived the wreck and staggered into the house, whatever house, they left them open, right? Because why not? There would be 1 inch of booze in each bottle of each house. It was a tradition. It was an unspoken thing. So people could take shelter and, you're not, who are you going to call? There's like no phones, no toilets, no lights. But at least if what you need is a good drink, you would at least have that. It was absolutely unbelievable. 2 of these camp houses left. I was standing in one. And Emily said the only other one, right? The others are washed away. The only other one is still out there on the sandbar, hanging on stilts. It's built up on stilts because there's no sand under it anymore. And Emily said, "Oh, yeah, that's Don Long's house. Yeah, he still uses that. He knows in a week it might not be there anymore, but at this moment it's there." And I said, "Oh my God, do you think I can see it?" And she said, well, it's across the water. And she said, I think your best chance of seeing it would be from the fish pier in Chatham. So guess what? We went back home. We got Papa and Jocelyn and went over to the fish pier. And this is very distracting because there's tons of seals outside the fish pier. But they had those machines that you put quarters in. And I put a quarter in and I looked across the sandbar. And guess what? It was right there. That little house is the last camp house. I was like insane. I tears in my eyes still thinking about it. So this is the best photo I could get. This is a photo through that machine of this house. There's probably more online, but I want to have a complete rug with all of the camp houses that ever were, and now I have them all. Because if this washed away last week after I left, I have this photo. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. Yeah, you should, Ryan. It is so cool. The 1-inch booze tradition is so old-timey. It was just amazing. And the reason I told such a long story at the beginning of a rug show is because if you're thinking, oh, it's so lucky that you went to the Cape and you have these great stories there. You have these great stories too where you live. You have these great stories. You just have to get talking to people and visiting museums and places, because there are so many people with so many great stories, and they're great inspiration, whether you're a rug maker or a quilter or a writer or a songwriter, or you just like to be surrounded in all the charm and lore of your memory museum, right? It's not just where I am, it's where you are too. So that was a big day for us. I absolutely tell about the food flags. Oh, that's right. That's right. I told my mom that night. See, I already forgot that part. At the camps, they also had this tradition of putting up these food flags. So it was just a regular flag, or whatever. If you were like in a Oddfellows or whatever, you might put up whatever flag. But if you put your flag up in the camp house, it meant that you had food to share. So if, for example, you had a bunch of corn, like you had a bunch of, ears of corn, you put your flag up, the neighbor's flag is up, and so you know that they, that night, want to share a meal. So you go over there, oh, what have you got? Oh, you've got some hot dogs? Let's do it. So whoever put their flags up that night, they would get together and share their food, and it would be like a joint meal. And if you didn't have your flag up, maybe you were having a romantic night, or maybe you just didn't have a lot of food and you didn't want to share it, or it was too good to share. But that was another tradition of those camp houses. It's just like, it's just so magical to think that work was probably very, very hard during the week. But then on weekends, you get in your boat, you just row over this little bit, and there's the other house that you built, and you're there, and your kids are in the next room, and it's 1946 or 1960, and life is just different. It's a totally, totally different place. Okay, so we saw that. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so as we're driving along, this is another thing that I saw a lot of this year, and I don't remember seeing them. I had to ask what this was. And Rita said, Wool Diva said, those are the, Rita, I forgot what you said they were called, because we used to call them money trees. They turn into the silver dollars. You know what I mean? The transparent, they look like parchment. I haven't seen these for ages, and because they're green, I didn't even realize what they were. But these are those, we used to call them money tree plants. So cool. When you are in a happy mood, you notice everything, right? So like I'm walking along, we're coming off the pier from looking at the seal and finding the house, and I noticed this. It's fish footsteps that lead you to the fish store, right? Because it's the freshest fish you can get, right? It's at the marina, and that's where we saw the seals, and that's where I saw the house from. And you see things like this, and it seems like when you're in a happy mood, you see more stuff. You know what I mean? When you're in a bad mood, you miss everything. You're just not there. It's just can't be present. It can't be present all the time. But when you're in a happy mood, you tend to see stuff like this. And I thought, that is a great border. I'm doing that. It's a little bit Escher. I know exactly what I'm going to do with it. It's fun. It's fun when you feel like seeing. I did a lot of this too. I did almost exclusive seafood eating while I was there, particularly shellfish. I love shellfish. Apparently not allergic to shellfish. These are just clams, not even steamers, but so, so, so good. Lots of greasy, oily food, and that's why I'm at where I'm at. And then coming back for the evening back at the pond, and on this particular night I started my Halloween menu, or Halloween picnic. I think it's called Halloween menu. So this was, I think, the third or maybe the fourth piece that I started while I was there. And beautiful view as the sun sets right before the bugs start biting, right? The little sand fleas and all that stuff. We watched Jaws, and Jocelyn felt that she wanted to make her own version, and she called it, instead of Jaws, Joss. Get it? So she is so good at the computer, the opposite of me. Oh, she did this on her phone. She created this poster after we watched the movie. I think it was therapy, because she tuned into the movie when that guy, I forget what his name is, you know, the cranky one, Jaws was like snacking on him on the deck. You know what I mean? It's like the worst scene. So she made this, and when she made this, Teddy must have felt very challenged because he made this. And I don't understand their jokes. He put like one of the chipmunks from Alvin and the Chipmunks and wrote the squeakle. But I don't get their jokes. But they laughed forever. So I thought, well, it must have been a very good joke. We did lots of this too while we were gone. We love to go mini golfing. It is so much fun. And this is why this little girl broke her arm a few months ago, because we cannot resist doing foolhardy stuff like this. She is as sure-footed as a goat, but man, it's constant. Now, this was my best day of this trip. I have not been to Nantucket for probably 12 years or something, and I love it. It's not always great to bring the kids to, because it's great. It's the best. It's one of the two islands off of Cape Cod, along with Martha's Vineyard, but Martha's Vineyard is much bigger, and I feel you need a car, but to bring the car is an extraordinary amount of money. And also, there was no availability when I checked like 2 months ago. So apparently you need to book far in advance and have about $500 or $600 handy if you expect to bring your car, which I fully understand, because what you don't want are beautiful summer islands where people live to be a traffic jam bumper to bumper. If it was cheap to bring the car, it would be a traffic jam and it wouldn't be lovely anymore. So I get it. But Teddy and Judy, Teddy and I went to Nantucket, just the two of us, because he is in this adventure mode. And we took the ferry. I explained it was a high-speed ferry from Harwich to Nantucket, and it would go fast. It would be, it would feel like it was going fast, right? Some people get seasick. All of these things can happen. Well, it was fantastic. He's like an old man, isn't he? He's just sitting outside until the bus got out of the harbor, picked up some speed, and then he was very, very cold. I stayed out there. Neither of us, luckily, are people who get seasick. We saw a whale on the way out. It was a humpback whale. I tried to take a picture. It was so far away, it wasn't worth showing you. But I saw it. And I grabbed for my phone like this. And I was holding the phone upside down, right? Because it like breached. It came right out of the water. And somebody went, whale! Because you never see whales in the water. And I grabbed my phone and I'm like this, pressing the button. And I had it the wrong way around. So by the time I went like this, I just got the flippers flipping. I mean, it was doing stuff, but none of the photos came out great. But the captain said it had been 2 years since they saw on that route, like every day, well, in the summer, twice a day in the summer. That was the first time in 2 years they'd seen a whale. So I felt it was such a privilege for us to be able to see that, and for Teddy to see that. Super exciting. This was his favorite day. He loved the romance of Nantucket. It's all cobbled like this. It's either brick or cobble. We actually saw an old man who had just fallen down because he tripped on the cobbles. This must happen all of the time. This is very moderate cobbling. Through the back streets, it's very round cobbles. Like it is from like the late 1700s, early 1800s. Like this is ballast from boats. This cobble is treacherous. But not luckily we saw the man, but when I came around the corner, I saw somebody on the ground. And my first thought was that somebody was working on their car, or they dropped something, or reaching under their car. I mean, it happens to me. And we came around the corner and I realized it was an old man who had tripped on the cobble. Quite old, very old. And at the same time, as I was approaching quickly with Teddy, I thought, man, this is going to be traumatic. A local woman was pulling up with her Jeep, and she got there first. And she said, he sat up. The guy was sitting up, but he seemed a bit confused. He was very old, and he had a bad cut on his head. I thought Teddy was going to be traumatized, but he wasn't. And, it was just like, are you okay? And she said, I'm calling the ambulance. She called the ambulance right there. I thought the last thing this poor man needs, he was beautifully dressed. He obviously lived there. I thought the last thing he needs is an audience, right? But as soon as we walked away, I was able to say to Teddy, if this happens, you have to be brave. If you see things like this, you have to be brave. You have to go up to the person, make sure that you call 911. Always, no matter what, you always, so it was a good, as Kirsten said, teaching experience, but it's a little bit unnerving. And I think it was fine in the end. It was just a bit scary for a few minutes, but the cobbles are what make it beautiful. The cobbles are what he loved about it, that European romance. We went to the Whaling Museum. Somebody took this picture for us. Somebody that I think was Irish, Olivia, she took this picture for us. We're in and out of museums pretty quickly because attention span, but it's a beautiful museum. If you get the chance to get there, it's worth doing. It's a couple of hours of fun for sure. Seeing the whale boats, watching the videos. This was something that was interesting too, because this is a whale skeleton. I think this is a blue. I think this is a blue whale. No, it's a variety of sperm whale. It's a variety of sperm whale. Look at the ceiling, by the way, how cool it is. But this is a really cool thing because I haven't been to the to the Whaling Museum since I was much, much, much younger. And I think that this skeleton is newer to the museum than my last visit. And I think this skeleton was actually a whale that was found on the shore of Nantucket in distress, and it was in the shallow water for a while, and the people of the island tried to push it back out and help it, but it kind of floundered, I don't know if that's the right word, and ended up beaching and dying on the shore. And it was considered a great tragedy when the whale died on the shore, because it just doesn't happen often at all. So it was a great sort of teaching experience for them. And what they ended up doing, because they had this dead whale, and it was a massive thing, and they considered it super sad. The whole history of Nantucket is built on whaling. They decided to try to clean up the whale, meaning skin it, and put it in the Whaling Museum, which already existed. And there's actually 3 videos on it in the museum. It was actually beautiful in a weird way, because the narrators were there for this, and many of them are like scientists, and they're there for a reason. And they said, it was like when they went this one morning and the whale was washed up, there was just this heavy atmosphere of being so sad, because this is their history. And once they made the decision, it had to be a town decision, and there was meetings and stuff. But once they decided that they would clean up the whale and use the skeleton for the museum for teaching, people from the island were the people who did it. So they were literally cut. I mean, this sounds awful, but it's all for a good reason, right? They were cutting up the whale according to the way that they did way back when, in the 1830s, when the first whalers from Nantucket, that was the business of the island. So it was almost like they were time traveling backwards. They were researching and referencing books that were written at that time about whaling, not Moby Dick, right? That was much, much later, but actual practical books. And they found in doing this that the best tools for cutting up the whale were actually the tools they used then. There was nothing that they could find that was modern. None of the things that were modern saws and things worked as well as the things that they used way back when. So it was just an interesting story within a story. And while we were there, sorry, I keep clicking. While we were there, I kept seeing this flower, and I did not know what it was. It's some kind of trumpet flower, but I didn't recognize it. I thought maybe you would. So pretty. So many flowers on Nantucket. Claire Murray Land had to take a picture of this. I mean, who doesn't need some whale-shaped box or whatever kind of hedge this is in their lives, right? This was on the road that the guy had fallen, but I'm absolutely sure he was okay, and conscious, and sitting up. We were a bit shocked in this photo, but Teddy, again, foxglove. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. I did not know that was foxglove. View from the roof of the Whaling Museum over the Slate Hill onto a parking lot, but still super beautiful. And this was Teddy's best souvenir. I'm not making fun of it. This was his best souvenir from Nantucket. We went to the Nantucket Crisps shop, and we got one of each flavor of potato chip. He is spacing them out and savoring them. And we now have a bumper sticker on our car that says, "I break for Nantucket Crisps." So super cute. We had such a good day. This was the last photo of the day. And I was conscious when I looked at this photo that I have a lot of freckles. I have a lot of freckles, and now I have this, right, from cancer freckle. So be super careful this summer when you're out in the sun. I am an indoor cat, and I am never in the sun. But with this many freckles, right, you're in trouble. So be thinking about that for yourself, too. On the way home, boy, after your own heart, Lisa. On the way home, we stopped in Taunton at the Antique Center there, and I found my first rug of all of that time. It was $45. I know I probably should have gotten it, but I love it. It's great. It's a great Pearl McGowan School of Rug, right? I just have so many rugs, and I felt that I didn't need to spend any more money after being away for this long. I kind of wish I did get it, but it is there at the Antique Center in Taunton. $45, I think, is a steal. It was hooked in number threes. Beautiful rug, and I absolutely loved it. When we left that day, this is the last photo I took when we left the pond. Overnight, a spider had made this web between the side mirror and the window of the car. And I felt so bad about it because it's such a beautiful work of art and so beautifully done. He did it overnight. It wasn't there the evening before. And I had to pack the car. We had to pack the car and drive. So we lost it's so pretty, isn't it? We lost the spider web, but you know what? You know who's still in the side mirror of the car? Sadly, he's not a Cape Cod spider anymore. He's a Connecticut spider because he's still there. And when I go out, he's still doing his thing with the side mirror. So he's obviously very pleased about his situation. He doesn't mind that he's moved. But yeah, it was a wonderful trip. That was just a sort of taste and flavor of what we did, why I wasn't with you for such a long time. I got so many ideas, so much inspiration. It was such a lot of fun. It's all ruminating, and we will go back later in the summer, so I'll be able to chase some more of the ideas and do a little bit more research that I want to do and some of the things that I thought were especially great. But for this moment, let's make a harsh transition. I was thinking earlier today, it was a terrific trip. Yeah, it was such a lot of fun. It always is. We always find things to do. You know, that's the thing. And we do the same kind of things when we're at home, I have to say. We do museums and historical societies, and we look for walks that are cool. We look to talk to people who have great stories. I try to write everything down, lock it all up, shore up all that great history. Because so many of the stories that you hear, particularly from older people, are stories that will be gone. Not everybody has it in them to write a book and to save all of these stories. So, like the stories that Emily told me at the camp house, it's like I wrote all of that down, and now I'm telling it to you, and I'm sure I'll go back. But you know, she hasn't written a book, and she was there. She was there as a child, and she remembers all this stuff. And you know, if I go back and she's not there because it's her day off, and someone else is there, they might have been part of that world too, or their parents were, and they have different stories. It's all worth talking and writing stuff down, right? So I came home today, and I've been at a tailspin of busyness trying to catch up on orders and get out all of the Halloween stuff for a lot of you are helping me with Halloween images. If you haven't heard yet, I am putting together a Halloween book that will come out this October with a book launch party. Tickets not there yet. I haven't fine-tuned it completely yet, but they will be there soon. A book launch party that will max out at 70. So be sure that if you're interested that you come. One of the buddies on the thread begins with an L. Come on, one of my new buddies out there wrote, "Oh, perfect timing. I'm going to come because she's planning to go to the Sheep and Fiber Festival in New York. That's the Rhinebeck. The day before the book signing in October, so October 19th, is the Sheep and Fiber Festival in Rhinebeck, New York. That's the largest fiber festival in this part of the country. And it's New York, but it's in that corner, right? The Berkshires is in the western corner, and it's on that side of New York. So it's not that far. Something to think about. But anyway, if you would like to help hook some images for the Halloween book, it's called a haunted rug, The Haunted Rug. It'll be out this October. That's what the book launch party is about. And a bunch of buddies are helping me by hooking some images. We're going to have more than 50 patterns in the book and rugs in the book. And if you have it in you to do one and you're like, oh, I didn't hear about this until now, send me an email at ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. Even if I don't have a pattern at this moment, I will make something, even something simple. If you're a beginner or a puncher and you want something simple, if you want to have something in the book and you want to be published in that book, I will make it work for you. So make sure you get in touch with me before we get really, really far and close to the deadline. So all of that has been keeping me very busy, and it wasn't until the middle of the day today while I was half dozing that I thought, what am I going to do for cocktail time tonight? And then I remembered that I had this great book. So I'm almost making a little part in the episode here and saying, let's look at this book together. This really surprised me how good this is. It's a small book, but man, is this thing packed with greatness. I don't know if the pages, yeah, It is 63 pages long. This is not, on Blurb, this is not one that was pricey. This one, I can't remember how much it was, but check out Blurb later. Sometimes the self-published stuff is very expensive and it's hard to justify. Oh my God, menopause. But this is not one of those. This was very affordable and it was so well worth it. 3 Centuries of Hooking, Mount Desert Island Historical Society Exhibition, August 9th, 2009. And this is by Judith Burger-Gossart, who is the curator, or was the curator in 2009. So let's flip over here and look at this amazing, this is an amazing book. Let me start at the beginning. So, change of glasses, and, whew, 3 Centuries of Hooking, an exhibit of hooked rugs from private collections, Mount Desert Island Historical Society. This exhibition, and this was on the intro page, I'm forgetting where you do the inscription to someone, Hooked Heart Pin, courtesy of Susan Lerner. This exhibition honors Marianne Barnacle, oh, what a great name, and Patricia Y. Wharton. And this little pin, the Hooked Heart pin, is on that first sort of inscription dedication page. That's what I'm going for. So I immediately opened the book, and this is what we've got. I'm not going to show you every page because I hope that you'll buy the book. I'm not showing you 80% of what's in this book because it's amazing and it's there for you. I just want to show you some of the highlights and sort of whet your appetite for what is an absolutely worthy book to add to your rug hooking library. So the foreword says, I'll read part of it because I haven't read it yet myself. When I was asked to join the board of the Mount Desert Island Historical Society a year ago, can you hear me okay with the window open? Or is it too loud hearing the cars outside? I was delighted to accept, but unsure just what I might have to offer as a board member. After several strategic board meetings, I had a better idea of the Historical Society's needs, and gradually the idea of a hooked rug exhibit began to emerge. I have long had an interest in hooked rugs. Both of my parents made hooked rugs. In my late 20s, I hooked 4 rugs and found hooking curiously addictive and pleasurable, and in my antique business, I developed a special interest in hooked rugs. It wasn't until 2003 when Patty Wharton started a hooking group on the island, Hook and I, that I resumed rug making after a long hiatus. So that this goes on quite a bit, the foreword. So I just wanted to get a feel in a nutshell for, you know, the sort of impetus for making up the book. But I can see, okay, no, I got to read a few more snippets. I'm just going to kind of dive in here and there. Several people were extremely helpful. Okay. When the Hook and I started in 2003, we met at the Maine Seacoast Mission. Now that is a school of hooking. Do you remember from past Coffee Time episodes that was a school of rug hooking? The Maine Seacoast Mission, and I happened to see some hooked rugs that they had stored in a closet. At the time, no one seemed to know where they had come from or why the mission had these rugs. Oh my God. 2 years ago, I remembered the rugs and decided it would be interesting to see them again. I was introduced to Marianne, it's Marianne, Barnacle with an I, and soon learned that the Maine Seacoast Mission had a hooked rug program from the 1920s to the 1930s. Now, there is a book on this. I'm never going to think of what the title was, but we covered this at least over one episode. If you look up in the Coffee Time episodes, Maine Seacoast Mission, oh God, it was an amazing, amazing book. 1920s and 1930s. This then was the origin of the rugs. I was amazed to find more rugs that I remembered. It soon became clear to me that Marianne had single-handedly organized and cataloged the Maine Seacoast Mission's holdings from papers and artifacts, all thrown into boxes in a helter-skelter fashion. Marianne was extraordinarily helpful, providing me with much information and spending many hours discussing the Maine Seacoast Mission rugs. Marianne also introduced me to Mildred Cold Pelledo, her book, Rug Hooking in Maine, 1838 to 1940. We've talked about this book too. This is one of the most important rug hooking books of all time. Can you listen and hear if everybody's being very polite, I think. I don't know if that window's too loud when it's open. I don't want it to be too loud, and nobody's answering, so I'm thinking you might be very polite, not telling me that it is really distracting. Many delightful hours went into creating this exhibit, a special, and then a lot of thanks going out to different people. So we're getting a feel for what the beginning is about. And then boom, we start with the introduction and the first rug, right? We're about to look at this rug. Sound is good. Oh, okay, good. It's okay on my end. I can hear you well. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I just wanted to be sure you just weren't being polite, because there's no point in recording if it's bad, you know. Although it's very hot in here. So introduction, and let me show you the rug that she's showing for the introduction right here. Oh, no, right here. Oh, wait a minute. No, hang on. This is the introduction rug. I'm going to show you those other photos in a second. We can't skip over that. So she talks about rug hooking in the introduction. It's a long tradition of embroidery, weaving, needlecraft. How in recent years rug hooking has taken its rightful place as a true form of folk art. I'm paraphrasing hugely. And then she talks about the origins of rug making. And she shows us this rug, and it says, "Welcome rug, wool on burlap." This is from the Maine mission. I'm assuming it is. It's the right years, maybe not. It is anonymous. It is 60 by 31, and it was made between you can see it on the bottom, 1920 and 1930. So let's pause for a minute here, because I do want to look at this rug together as a group of rug makers and say, wow. No, thanks, Barbara. You know, sometimes you get rugs that are what is called in this book untrained, meaning folky, meaning there wasn't an Edward Sands Frost stencil. It was just seat of the pants, right? Somebody just drew it, or didn't even draw it, just made it. This is one of those rugs, but this is exceptionally good. There is such good form in this rug. We have got marble cake, sort of hit or miss. By the way, oh my gosh, thank you to so many people for signing up for the hit or miss class that I'm giving. Starting this week and over the weekend, I added another date for the hit or miss class. I think July 3rd, something like that, because so many people signed up for it, and I am dying like 8 more kits that were ordered yesterday. For me, I'm a small business, and that's a lot. So I'm adding a bunch more kits, and I added another date. And if you want to sign up for the hit or miss class because you want to do stuff like this welcome rug, this is going to be a great class. It comes with a huge bag of noodles and some solid colors. That's what I need to dye, and the pattern. So that's up on the Ribbon Candy Hooking website, and it's in the description of this video. So I did add one more date, and if more people sign up in another wave like that, I'll add yet another date. So that will be there for you. And if you ordered it recently, I have to go to that wedding on Sunday, but I'm dyeing all the stuff. All of the ones that I have orders for now will go out tomorrow before I leave for the wedding. And if you order some after that, thank you. I'll get those to you, and we'll just add more dates for hit or miss classes. Oops, sorry, wrong window. So this is an exceptional example of a hit or miss background. It's not super colorful. It's more the marble cake, meaning that's the color palette, marble cake. But it's very vertical, isn't it? And it looks like it has potential to be a naive rug just based on that background, but it's really not. The text is pretty good. In terms of scale, it's quite small, but it does what it's meant to do. It says welcome. It's very clear. It's very clear text. The decoration in this rug is insane. It's over the top. We have got four distinct borders if you count the scrolling, curling roses on the sides, right? So beautiful. Oh, good, Kaz. I'm glad that's going to work out. That's going to work out better. I love the roses. You see the graphic approach to them. It's not realism. This rug looks like it has no fade, right? If it was in a closet, it doesn't have fade. It might have some fade if we're talking about alkaline dyes, but it's very vivid. So beautiful roses. If you see how they're done, the leaves cut in half, right? And this is what we're doing in the hit or miss too. We have leaves, and I have one color for one side and one color for the other side of each leaf. That's just how it's done with these earlier rugs. So that's what we're doing too. Beautiful execution of the roses. Then we go out to that darker border. It's like a tray, isn't it? Like a tray design. And could be taken from an actual toll painted tray, right? It could be taken from a 19th century tray, early 20th century. Beautiful flowers. It looks like a tray design, doesn't it? Because you've got the kind of leaves coming from the sides, the corners on the sides. It looks more like leaves giving way to, in this case, shrimp cocktail. Do you see what I mean? Doesn't it look like in the center those aren't flowers or buds, but shrimp? And I love that. I mean, maybe it's like Freudian or subconscious because this is a Maine rug, right? So seafood makes a lot of sense. But when I get to the center, I think, is that a rosebud or is that a shrimp? I love it. Whatever it is, I love it. And then we go to the corners where we see these kind of banana leaves. And again, employing the outlining, the very graphic outlining, and then the two color for each leaf. And we end up in this banana color, ripe and unripe, right? So pretty. We're going from pretty rosy floral colors to brown rusty colors, rusty pinks. And then we're going out to these tropical colors, these delicious yellow and green colors. And in the final border, instead of making it boring and do it not boring, but this is what we're going to be talking about in the hit or miss class. It could have just been straight lines, right? Just little dot lines just until you run out. No, this maker went diagonal, and not even geometrically diagonal, just wonky diagonal. And this is a little bit harder to hook. It's easy to hook top to bottom in a true diagonal, but this is a little bit harder. But you can see the true striations of the yellows, the browns, the cool, sagey greens, the pinks, the darker browns, the pecans, the rusts. It's an incredible palette. It is just a gorgeous rug. Now, I have to flip backward just for a minute because I missed a couple of photographs. This is out of focus because it's a photograph of a photograph in a book. That's an old photograph. And I don't know, these photographs aren't noted, but this is what I'm looking at. So I'm going to show you these two photographs. They're the oldies because these are the ones that really got me. I'm thinking they might get you too. I just love this image of a woman. This looks like someone who is buying one of the Maine Coast rugs, doesn't it? This looks like a shopper to me. This with the fur collar and all that. It doesn't look like one of the makers to me. I might be wrong, but she's picked out or contemplating buying a rug that obviously has a cottage, a little willowy kind of a tree, some stars, and a moon. So we don't see the whole rug, but we get a feel for what it looks like. And certainly this looks like a composition that you might have on your frame right now, right? How interesting is that? Some things just don't change. Thank God for that. And I love this photo too. Now this is interesting. This made me think more. This is a very unexpected design. This made me think more of Helen Albee. And she's New Hampshire. She's not Maine. But it is not a Native American design. But it does have that avant-garde, not floral, not pictorial. It is out there in the same way that Helen Albee's designs were out there. It does make me feel like there is some kind of crossover and inspiration here. And again, these are not annotated, these two photos, so I don't know anything more. But I will say, confusingly enough, I'm struggling with understanding the composition of this particular rug, or whether this is a photographic trick, because look at this with me. In this photograph, I'm seeing like the triangle surrounded by a floral. I've never seen anything like that rug. It has what appear to be possibly university or fraternity, male Masons type lettering. You see what I mean? In the pyramid. That seems to be that rug. But when I look over to the right, Teddy, I'm recording. I'm looking at stripes coming down at her hand, and I'm thinking, is that a shadow or are those stripes? And then I'm seeing a duck. Do you get how these things go together? Because I'm seeing a duck on the far right and a seascape. And then on the far left, on the other side of the rug, I'm seeing a seascape. I'm not, oh, Gail, good morning, sunshine. Good to see you. I don't get how this photo works. Maybe you're seeing it different than I'm seeing it. But I looked at it and I thought, what's going on there, You see what I mean? It's confusing to, I love it. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on there. All right, if you know, let me know. It's like working as an optical illusion for me. You know what? I wonder if it's not like overexposed. I think she's holding two separate things. She must be. But then what's going on? Do you think maybe, okay, I see what you mean. Oh my God, I see what you mean. Yes, April, I think you're right. So I see her hand on the right, and I think those ropes behind her, because she looks like she's standing next to a boat, are making the shadow. So I think that can be accounted for. I think you're right. I think her right hand, it could be double exposed, but I think the rug has a black top border, but it might be flopping over with her right hand. Her right hand might be under it, and the top black border might be flapping over. So then we're seeing the white of the actual real sky with the white of the sky in the rug making the same color because it's an old photograph. I think that might be what's going on. I think you're right. I think she's holding two, and the right hand corner flopped down, and then we're seeing a weird shadow. It's confusing, isn't it? It's confusing. Or it could be double exposed. I can see it in her fingers. I think that's the shadow of those ropes behind her. I wonder where she was standing when this was taken. I wonder if the Historical Society has other photos, because this was taken from the Historical Society. I wonder if they have other photos of this day, because obviously on this day, people had rugs out. Whether, I mean, I was going to say whether they were working on them. I don't think they were working on them. I think they were selling them. I mean, isn't that like a good deduction? Because if they had rugs out, if she's holding two, she's showing them for a reason. And it's probably not, do you like my rug? It's probably, are you going to pay me, right? I could stand to be paid. This was a mission, right? Because economically this was a depressed area. That's why the mission existed. So I'm guessing that this might have been a day when the ladies came out and showed rugs for sale. And maybe I'm just guessing. And maybe the last photo was, for example, one of the shoppers who came. There's a big distinction between the way that lady looks and the way this lady looks, right? So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what we can find out in the future, but interesting to surmise. So then the book moves on to technique and design, regional styles, and then, so I'm skipping a lot of it, right? Because it's not an expensive book and it's a fabulous book to own. Then it goes into Waldoboro and hooked rugs, and you're getting text, and then you're getting pages of color images. So we've talked a lot about Waldoboro hooked rugs. Waldoboro is a town in Maine, and Waldoboro rug hooking now refers to the region around the town of Waldoboro where three-dimensional rug hooking started. The Maine state flag has a pine tree. Okay, hang on, you got me. You got me. That's all I needed to hear. Now, wait a minute. Let me look at that again. The Maine state flag, it does have a pine tree. Interesting. Now, why did you say that, Barbara? Did you see a pine tree in that image with the triangle? And the, oh, no, I do think that's a rope shadow because there's the exact same shape of ropes behind her. Do you mean you thought maybe that's a pine tree? It is a very good thought. I really do think it's a shadow. Although I wouldn't be surprised to find palm trees. Pine trees, I know that there's a flag of I think it's, if not the first, it's one of the first Maine flags with a pine tree at Beauport. That's the Sleeper McCann house in Cape Ann in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And they have the largest collection of hooked rugs I've ever seen. I think that they have one with a pine tree. Interesting. Now it's making me wonder if there's a link to Maine with that particular rug. So rabbit holes, right? Endless rabbit holes is fantastic. So this section on Waldoboro rugs, what Judith writes is hooked rug artistry has never been more fully developed than in the small town of, now this is an opinion, than in the small town of Waldoboro in mid-coast Maine. Descendants of the early German settlers created rugs with such exquisite floral designs as to challenge all others. They were credited with devising a technique of sculpting the flowers to more accurately display and accentuate the three-dimensional quality for which they strived, setting their products apart from the more traditional hooked rugs. So it is true at this time when we are first, and I don't know if that's an excerpt from Mildred Cole Pellado's Rug Hooking in Maine, the book, right? Because she does a lot in that book with Waldoboro. And, it is an opinion thing. Do you like Waldoboro? Do you think this is the height of the craft? That is certainly an opinion. Personally, my opinion is, and this is just my opinion, right? Opinions are like, you know what? But my feeling is I love to see them. They are interesting to see. They are curiosities. It's like seeing a dodo, But for me, they aren't typically my taste. Sometimes the colors strike me as being super interesting, and I can see that they are the pinnacle of this specific type of craftsmanship. But this is a highly technical way of rug making. I still prefer rugs like the welcome rug for myself that are very graphic and folky. So yeah, the artist, I want to, what I'm saying is I want to substitute the word um, artistry for technical. This is the height of technical prowess, not necessarily artistry, right? Because artistry implies creativity. This does require creativity. But my personal feeling is that doing Waldoboro and sculpting flowers to this extent, this is done by hooking very, very close together, like hooking very densely packing, and then cutting, sculpting, right? You have to, like bonsai tree style, sculpting into it and getting these big, puffy, three-dimensional shapes. Did people walk on these rugs? Yes, they did. Did people trip on these rugs? Oh God, I'm sure that there were lots of jack trippers with these Waldoboro rugs. Did people put these rugs on coffins, like three-dimensional flower bouquets in the winter? Yes, they did. Were they taken off the coffins when the coffin was going into the ground and being covered with dirt? That I don't know, and I'd still love to have the answer to that. This is one of these moment in time things. It is great to experiment with Waldoboro hooking now, because why not? What a great school of hooking. What a lot of fun to learn. It is very technical, and if you're a technical person, you are going to love exploring Waldoboro hooking for surezies. And Judy says, now I want to reread Country of Pointed Firs. Barbara, one of my first books about Maine. Um, um, come on, author. Country of Pointed. Oh, it's going to drive me crazy. Sarah. Sometimes it's like having a baby when I'm trying to think of something. Sarah. Oh, Orn Jewett. Sarah Orn. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Excellent book. That's it. That's well worth. Hey, Catherine, you love it when I say that, right? That's well worth repeating. I love Waldoboro too. It's very fun to find it. Unfortunately, the only Waldoboro rugs that bad lightning, that I own are have been jack trippered and really worn down and very, very faded and washed. But this school of hooking is exceptional and extraordinary. It is so interesting to research it, to find Waldoboro rugs. Sorry, I'm struggling with buttons. And that was a crop of, there's lots more pictures obviously in every chapter, but this is a larger view of that same rug. This is a Waldoboro hooked rug made between 1870 and 1890. It is wool on linen backing. This is at the Waldoboro Historical Society. This is 60 inches and a half by 29 inches and 3/4. I always have to laugh at the 3/4. I mean, I'm not a 3/4 writer, I have to say. If you buy patterns from me, just know I'm not a 3/4 writer. I'm hardly a half writer. For me, an inch at this point in my life is not very much. But it is 29 3/4. Absolutely stunning rug. The floral design with roses predominating is the hallmark of a Waldoboro hooked rug, as is the unique, now this is interesting, the unique green background in the central panel. Now, that is interesting because of the Waldoboro rugs that I've seen and not in person, you do often see this pistachio color with the mustard gold. It must have been a thing. It was very Victorian. This is a very high Victorian color palette. No doubt about it, right? This isn't like somebody said, oh, what about pistachio green? No, this was a color that had already been established as a high fashion color, an upper class color. It makes a lot of sense that rugs would follow suit. The wonderful and romantic scrolls in the border push the eye toward the central motif, the tilted basket of flowers. So if you're thinking, oh, Deanna, your camera tipped even more, screw that thing back on. No, it's actually the rug. It is a tipped basket. That is the motif. Tilting the basket gives the rug a special piquancy. So, yeah, piquancy. I never hear that word. Peculiarity. We're stick with piquancy. But it is. It's an oddball twist, isn't it? It's a funny, I wonder why, isn't it? The sculpted flowers, I don't know the answer either. The sculpted flowers and the linen backing confirm that this rug was made in Waldoboro. Now that is interesting because we're not talking about a burlap backing or homespun or a linsey woolsey. We're talking about a linen backing. So that is going to be one of the identifiers if you are ever in that situation, right, where you need to identify a Waldoboro rug. Okay, and this is another, so there's more, and I'm flipping through them a little bit. Okay, so this is a special one. This is a Waldoboro rug that was made by Mini Light, Light, wool. Oh, uh-oh. Wool on cotton sheeting, backed with ticking. Ticking meaning like a thick, heavyweight cotton, like a duck that has like stripies, like interrupted stripies on it. So this is called the Mini Light, and again, mini like the name, not mini like small, because this rug is 47.5 by 26 1/4. The Mini Light Rug, courtesy of Mildred Cole Pelledo, and so again that book, Rug Cooking in Maine. Another beautiful example of a Waldoboro rug. Let me take a quick sip of my drink. Minnie Light, this is the text in the book. As a maiden lady, Minnie Light had a few employment options open to her. She should be lauded for overcoming that restrictive convention by developing her rug hooking craft into what appears to have been a sustained and successful business. A true pioneer as a woman entrepreneur. Whoa. Born in June of 22, I'm sorry, born June 20, I spilled water on the book and I'm distracted now. Born June 22nd, 1864 in Burkittville near Waldoboro, Minnie Light made her first rug in 1880 at the age of 16. This is the period, 1875 to 1885, when according to Creamer, I don't see a reference, for Creamer. So this must be an excerpt from Pelledo's book, because we don't have any reference in this excerpt to Creamer, who is a person apparently. When according to Creamer, this was the finest Waldoboro rugs were made, reaching the highest point of perfection at approximately the later date, so 1885. Thus, Minnie began her rug cooking career at the time when the finest Waldoboro rugs were being created. She clearly benefited from the women around her who were making sculpted Waldoboro rugs. From that meager beginning, she would eventually become one of the best-known hooker designers, sought out by collectors eager to purchase her rugs as well as her patterns. Holy mackerel! In addition, tangible evidence suggests she created commercial designs for, oh my God, I did not know this, E.S. Frost, Edward Sands Frosting Company, and of Biddeford, of Biddeford, period, end of sentence, sorry. Okay, I'm going to pause there and say, oh my word. Minnie Light was making patterns for Edward Sands Frost. I did not know this. Obviously, I did not read the Hooking in Maine book well enough. It is an epic book, right? It is like a tome of a book. It is a James Joyce of a rug hooking book, right? But I didn't read it, or I didn't know that, because I didn't know that. That is great information. In 1940, just 3 years before Light's death, Mary Carpenter Kelly wrote an article about her in the Maine Sunday Telegram, and it said, "This is the story of a woman." I'm going to come back to you here. "This is the story of a woman born in rural Maine who never took a drawing lesson in her life, yet produced a remarkable collection of exquisitely floral rug patterns. Through all her years of drawing rug patterns, Miss Light's only teacher was nature, with a capital M. In summer, with capital S, the old-fashioned posies growing in her own garden, in the wild flowers in the fields about her home. In the winter, those blossomings in her windows, in winter, those blossoming in her windows and in seed catalogs. These combined with her graceful scrolls in drawing, at which she was always adept, furnished her with all of the motifs she needed." I'm reading something that's a little bit antiquated, right? So it's these very long sentences. "A study of Light's original patterns proves her mastery with magnificent and intricate scrolls, the inward curving scroll." So this is, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it is an article that was in the Times that I think is an excerpt in Pelledo's book about Minnie Light. And we were just looking at one of Minnie Light's rugs. This is phenomenally great. The rest of this chapter shows close-ups of this rug. This is an exceptionally pretty rug. I have to say, this has more of like the chinois colors, like the Chinese import colors. Like it looks like it wants to be a coral or a red lacquer. Has more of that feel to me, using like the cool blue greens for leaves and a full red scroll border with that yellow or parchment color in the background. That looks more like it wants to be like an import rug, like a Chinese import rug. To me, that's what the color palette feels like. So very different, very different. It also looks like a tray. Again, it looks like a painted tray, right? Toll painted trays go back hundreds of years, and they were very well used, very popular. It was another thing that people did themselves, something, that you could buy as an import, like with lacquer paint and all that, but you could also buy them locally or make them yourself, paint in, shed work out in your garage, paint a tray. It also looks like that kind of a design. All this fits together because Minnie Light made designs apparently for Edward Sands Frost, the tin peddler from Maine. And he made stencils for rug hooking from his scrap tin in his garage, his version of shed work. Thinking about how women who weren't great artists wanted to make great rugs, and thinking if he created these stencils with tin, he would be able to sell them on his rounds, which he did in huge numbers, and people would be able to make these rugs. Then he started making patterns, and apparently Minnie started making patterns, and he started picking her patterns up. It all fits together. He probably also sold metal trays. It all fits together, right? Nothing comes from nothing. One of the other exceptional things about this rug for me is the background. So outside of the red scrolls, and these are enclosed scrolls, right? They resolve themselves, they touch. So that's exciting. It's a very high relief Waldoboro project, very tight border, and it's a very squared border. I like that a lot because we way more often see a round border, apples and oranges. All the same, in my mind, this very rectangular border is a bit more rare, and for that matter, interesting. And the outer border is black, but you can see lots of different materials were used because some of the black has held its color, but most of the black is not, right? It has faded and mellowed into this warm brown. And if you can picture it as a black rug, it would have had a hugely high impact color-wise, a really high impact. The black has been the least fast color. I don't know what color some of the leaves were. You can see some of them are white. Those might have also been black. Hard to tell. The inner leaves look like they're brown black, and that has lasted. But this was a very, very different color palette. Super dramatic, and it super reminds me of trays. And speaking of trays, funny you should say trays, because while I was on the Cape, this is one of my other Cape photos. Oops, sorry. There was a yard sale sign at the end of a road, and there's no way I'm driving by that, right? I'm not a fool. So turned in there, and I pulled up to this lady's house. Guess what? This is what I found. Whoa. I mean, she had more trays. This was her collection of trays, and this was a couple weeks ago. And they were, you see these in antique stores, and normally I don't look at them. These are newer trays, right? These are like 1950s era trays, maybe 30s to 50s. They're all over the ground around me. They're all over the place. But I'll tell you, multiples are compelling. I bought the little blue box. It's like a little matchbox or candle box you see sticking out on the top. It's different. I think I wanted to buy all of them, right? Because my instinct is like, well, I'm not leaving with one. If it's your whole collection, I'll take all of them. My first question was, did anybody else buy any? And her answer was no. So I thought, okay, well then I'll have them all. But then I thought, because she wanted like $10 each for them, and that they cost more than that. And some of them were scratched up. But in my mind, she was an artist. She is an artist. She lives in a house on Cape Cod. She had a collection of trays. I thought, I want the whole collection, then I want to build it some more. This is just the sick way that I think. But I ended up, I think, buying 5, right? That's pretty modest for me. But it was exciting to find the trays, and it's just further proof that when you see multiples of something, it is way more compelling. I don't know why, but it is like, oh, uh-oh. I was so excited to see this, and now more and more, I know, Barbara, right? I should have bought all of them, dang it. Now more and more. But I was thinking, I bought the one in my hand because it was very different. I think I bought the one to the right of it. But I didn't buy all of them. I didn't buy all of the black ones with pink flowers because I thought, I'll have a couple of those. And then it will be fun for me as time goes on to go into antique stores and to see them in different colors and to buy them as I go when I'm having a good weekend somewhere and I go, oh, I could use me another tray. And maybe I'll find one in like, dove gray or light blue or pink or yellow. You see them in all those colors, right? So it was super fun to find. But after I found the trays, it got me thinking about rug design and how so many rugs, including this wall de Barreau, this is a close up of the same wall de Barreau, um, they are very reminiscent of toll painting designs. And you know what else that reminds me of? On the way home, and I was at that antique store in Taunton, Mass, I found a bunch I'm not sure catalogs, maybe bulletins is a better word. I thought it was from an organization. They were all from the I think 80s. Um, Tiny little books, half the size, half the size of a 8 by 11. Black and white, all black and white. The later ones had color on the covers. I feel like the periodical was called something like Early American Decoration or Decorative Arts or something like that. Very sort of highfalutin title, because what the publication was about, like in every issue, because there were probably 100 issues on this table for $3 each, and I couldn't justify getting all of them. Um, they were all about toll painting on trays, with very few exceptions. A couple of them showed murals on walls of houses, and the periodical. I don't know. Has anybody heard of this? Because now I can't find it. And I bought 3 of them, and I had them in the front seat of the car. And on the way home, when I was making stops at game stores for the kids, I stayed in the car and was looking at them. And then we, in a hurry at night, and it was late, and I was tired and angry and ugly, I came in and all huffy, and I don't know where I put them, and I haven't been able to find them. And I wanted to find them because I wanted to show them to you. But they're called something like that. And while I only got 3 of them, because I thought, how many periodicals about toll painting trays does one need? When I was looking at them later in the car and I had driven away, I thought, oh, these are all rug designs. They're all out of copyright. They're all very dated rug designs, right? With the kind of, they're all Pearl McGowan, right? That's all the same style. But I thought, oh, interesting, because it probably works like the more you look at all of these trays, the more sophisticated your eyes get at looking at them and going, oh, well, it's like this kind of composition, but then it's got this, and when you get used to looking at stuff and you have more information. I wish I bought all of them, but I didn't have $300 extra to just spend. So I didn't. But I have a few, and as soon as I find them, I'll show them to you, because it was really remarkable how much all of the illustrations, little black and white illustrations, how much they all looked like rug designs, and that's why they were interesting to me in the first place. So the next chapter, quite right, or the next page, is talks about Edward Sands Frost stenciled pattern rugs. So let's move on image-wise as well. This is the image for that page. So again, I just want to remind you what the format of this book is like. This is a fantastic book. When the curator of a historical society puts a book together, that it is going to be an academic, scholarly, helpful, thorough, well done piece. And this is. So when I turn a page, I get this text, I get this, and then when I turn pages, well, that's a spoiler alert for the next. There's just more. In this case, there's not more of this rug, but sometimes there's like 2, 4, 6 pages of the same wall de Barreau. So very, very exciting to look at. So on this page, let me bring you back here. She starts the chapter by saying, Edward Sands Frost exemplified the Yankee spirit of ingenuity, inventiveness, and waste not, want not. He was born in Lyman, Maine in 1843. He moved to Biddeford after he left the Union Army. So we've talked about him before, so I'm not going to go in great detail about him. It is basically, it might not be original text, I'm not sure. Oh, hang on. He decided he could also improve the pattern he was working on and thus began making his own patterns. They quickly sold. Soon, he got the notion to make stencils to speed up the process. Between 1870 and 1876, he produced 750 stencils from old cast-off boilers, which allowed him to print more than 180 designs. I don't understand that sentence, cast-off boilers, but maybe you do. Maybe pieces of boilers, like tin pieces of boilers. So then it talks about him, but I'm not going to go into all the text because we've talked about him before and we'll talk about him again. So this top image is Spaniel. This is a unique rug, not because the rug hooker used a frost pattern, but because she hooked the rug in the sculpted wall de Barreau style. Oh Oh, that really, you can see the leaves going around, and you see the split color of the leaves again. And same thing that we were talking about before, the leaves around that oval, they are just like the tropical leaves that I said, like these look like banana leaves, the yellow and the green. Like maybe that's the thing with the Maine rugs. They look like they're raised, and the dog also looks raised. As a result, the spaniel, the border ribbon of leaves, and the corner medallions are all raised. This is wool, bless you, on burlap. This was made between 1880 and, oh, is that a Klondike bar? What would you do? All right, between 1880 and 1890, it is 22 by 44 and a half, and this is courtesy of Carol and Richard Haberman. And down below you see the actual frost pattern, and this is spaniel, pattern number 36. You want to say hi real fast, Joss?
Yeah.
All right. Joss be coming over.
There's beads embedding in my feet.
You had a container of about 4,300,996 beads, and they have all embedded themselves in the soles of my feet because nobody picked them up. And yours. It is like walking on a bed of nails over here. I said that the other day.
Look at my feet.
Oh, that's an Eskimo bar, I think. Yeah, I know, honey.
Look,
Imagine if you weighed 170 pounds like I do, how deep they'd go into your feet. You weigh like, you're like a little feather person. You want to see, I'm sure people are saying hi to you, honey. You got some highs. You always do, sweetie. She likes to say hi back. She was so sad. Oh,
it's fun to see the delay is not
here, show Kaz your shirt. This shirt I got for her when I went to Colorado with Teddy. This is from a chain of game stores in Colorado. It's some of the characters from some of the Super Mario games. It's very cool. And the name of the game chain was, oh, am I tickling you? level 7 games. Okay, here, let me finish the show, baby. I love you. Save one of those. Is there one more for me? Now I got to have it.
I don't know.
Oh, boy.
Looking for the
All right. So I'm skipping over a chapter of Edward Sands Frost stuff that you are gonna love, but we have to save some of it because I know you're gonna want to order this book. I don't get any kickbacks, right? I don't work for Blurb, but if you order this book, I want you to be sitting in bed with this thing going, do a Scream or a Home Alone, and say, oh, I've never seen that before. There's a lot of good images in this book, but I have to share this one with you. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. So. This is crabs. This is a rug that dates to between 1902 and 1905. This is wool, and it's sheared on burlap, so it has a cut pile. I'm not sure, but I think my memory of the Maine Mission rugs is that they are clipped rugs. I think. Just like the Abnaki rugs, the Helen Albee rugs, also clipped rugs, sheared rugs. This is 29.5 by 64.5. Now, this is exceptional because when you look at this, aren't you thinking, are you sure that's not Pier 1? No, this is crabs, and it's from the Maine Mission Rug, organization, and it dates from 1902 to 1905. Cranberry Island Club Rugs. This is a thing. Cranberry Island Club Rugs. Almost simultaneously, various philanthropic groups came upon the idea of engaging island and coastal women to make hooked rugs to sell. The goal was for the women to hook the rugs or mats in order to raise money for the community projects such as church repairs and wharves, or for personal benefits. I remember this. I remember this from our episode. It was at least a couple years ago. They needed to repair the church. Do you remember this conversation? This is like vintage ribbon candy hooking. This was ages ago that we did this. I remember that the story was that the town was a bit, for lack of a better word, people seem to be off their chains a little bit. And one of the reasons that seemed to be one of the underlying reasons was that the church was not functional. My memory was that there was like a carousel of pastors or priests coming in and out, and that the physical church building was not okay to use. And people, in my memory, seem to blame the lack of religion in the town for the way people were behaving in the sort of low, sort of moral culture. Understatement, right? It's all coming back to me now. But I remember that the first thing that everybody wanted to do was get the church open. And that was one of the main reasons for doing these rugs. That's all coming back. So the Grenfell Mission, comma, the Maine Seacoast Mission, and the Cranberry Island Club, uh, and others began such programs in the early 1900s. So, in other words, all of these respective missions, they were for people who are typically of the upper class, set up missions, taught women how to hook, gave them something to do, and the end game was to improve the standard of the community and bring revenue into a community that in many cases revolved around fishing and the sea. And when things had not been going good for quite a few years, the poverty was phenomenal and something needed to be done. So this is the backbone and the story of many of these early rug missions, including the Cranberry Island Club mission, which we never talk about, we never see, and I've never seen this rug with the crabs before, to my knowledge. Right? Hopefully, it's not the thumbnail of one of my previous shows that I just don't remember. In the early 1900s, at that time, there was a backlash against mass-produced goods of the industrial age, and the arts and crafts movement gave impetus to handmade, one-of-a-kind items, right? Ta-da! So handmade, and I'm going to add simpler, right? Because we're coming out of like the Victorian period, simpler lines, less gaudy, less gauche stuff, boom. Talk about simplified, talk about nice, clean lines. Judy says, are the clipped rugs hooked with yarn as opposed to wool strips? I don't think so, Judy. I think they're hooked with wool. Well, we know that the Grenfell rugs are hooked with pantyhose and they are not clipped. I think the Chetty Camp rugs are hooked with yarn, but they are not clipped. But as far as I'm gathering, the Abenaki rugs I know are hooked with wool and are clipped. And from what I can tell here from that one paragraph, the Maine Mission rugs, they've referred to several that are clipped. It doesn't necessarily mean that there weren't also ones that were unclipped, but so far the only references we've had in this book are that they were clipped. And I'd have to go back to the original, the thick book, to know, and I would like to know. As far as the Cranberry Island rugs, I just don't know anything about these rugs, but it sounds like they're clipped. And let me, I'm going to read on, Macduff, and let's see if we can get another clue, and let me stretch this out and see if we can get a feel for it. I'm going to look to, again, this is a picture of a picture. Gosh. No, it's wool. It's definitely wool. Here, let me show you this. This is a close-up in it. Let me, we got to give it, oh, it's green. It's not going to work. I'm sorry. Green screen. Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely wool. You can see it's not dots like yarn. It's like they're like little squares and rectangles. Super formulaic. It's technically incredible. This is just an incredible rug. If you're thinking to yourself, ooh, I love that rug and I'm just going to make it small again. I'd love to copy that rug. Oh, didn't Deanna just say that this was made in 1902 to 1905? Doesn't that mean it's out of copyright? I'm following through on a thought that you might be having. Year-wise, that means it's out of copyright. If you're thinking, oh, I'd like to repeat it, I don't know anything about this rug or this company, and I think you'd be hard pressed to find out anything about them that isn't in this book. So if I just have to say this, and I know maybe none of you are thinking about this, but in 10 years someone watches this video, God willing, and thinks, oh, I wonder if it's out of copyright. I don't know, because I don't know what the situation was with the family and whoever owned the rug or the design for the rug. I just don't know. I would say if you're having these thoughts about rugs that we're seeing tonight, this one especially, because it's so different, it's so striking, and we have 1 foot in summer, and it's probably a very attractive rug. Would I make this rug for myself if I loved it? Absolutely. Would I make a pattern of this rug and sell it? No, not without knowing what the actual status of the copyright was. Technically, it should be out of copyright because it's before 1928 and it's a visual art, but I don't know anything about the Cranberry Island Club rugs. If anybody does, please let me know, not because I want to copy this rug, because I want to know about the Cranberry Island Club rugs. I want to know everything about it. So I'm picking up where I left off here. Let's see, wait a minute. The women who are members, okay, this is bad news. Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute. Uh-oh, okay. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, wait a minute. Um, okay, at that time there was a backlash, blah, 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 one of a kind arts and crafts items. Like the Grenfell Mission, the Cranberry Island Club engaged professionally trained women. In this case, Mally Hicks from New York City, who was educated in the arts and crafts style. So you know who that is. We know her too from Coffee Time because she wrote a book on rug cooking that we have covered, and her summer home was Hillstead House, the Hillstead House in Farmington, Connecticut. And I've been there with in a group with for a hook along. We've talked about that place. I went there with Elizabeth maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and we talked to the curator there, looked at some of the rugs there, and we talked a little about Molly Hicks. It's Mally, Mali. But that was her summer home, and she taught. Okay, it's all coming back to me. She taught rug hooking to local women. She was super upper class. So she lived in New York City. She had the summer place in Farmington, Connecticut, Hillstead House, and she had something to do with the Cranberry Island Club. Okay, so that's a very good start. Now it makes me want to, I don't have the time right now, but it makes me want to get her book off the bookshelf. I know just where it is. And have a double of this book if anybody wants to buy it. It would be like, $5. I'll find all my doubles for you soon because I have more doubles of rug cooking books, and that's definitely one of them. I'd be really tempted to read that beginning to end and see if she says anything about the Cranberry Island Rug Club. That's a really good lead for us. The women who were members of the Cranberry Island Club were wealthy women who prized their privacy, so that's not good. And indeed, membership was a closely guarded secret. Originally, there were but 25 members who summered on Cranberry Island or in Northeast Harbor. While the rug industry seems to have declined around World War I, the Cranberry Island Club is still viable today, so I'm told. The marvelous example. Does anybody know anything about this? Okay, wait a minute. This book was written in 2009. Whew, my heart's starting to beat really fast. All right. While the rug industry, okay. This marvelous example of a Cranberry Island, let me bring you back, of a Cranberry Island rug on the facing page illustrates the highly sophisticated style and skill of the Cranberry Island hookers. A sea motif in the form of crabs and an Indian influence, I'm going to say meaning Native American influence, on the border and in the triangles are the most striking images in this outstanding rug. Well, I think we're going to end on this rug tonight, but I further want to add, I don't know, and I don't think a conversation about Helen Albee of New Hampshire is going to come into the conversation in this book because this is Maine. But I've got to tell you, there have been several instances tonight alone where we see crossover to Native American, what feel like Native American references. Certainly in between the crabs, the triangle line, right? You see that a lot in like Incan art and South American art, but you also see little touches and tastes of that among the Native American population in the Northeast, right? You definitely see references to that kind of line and the little diagonal triangles, all of that in the design. This is a bit of a hybrid. You feel a little bit of both. Certainly it's a nautical rug first. Strong arts and craft, very silhouette-driven piece. But aside from that, there is another layer of interest that does make me think again, yet again, of Helen Albee. And she was going to be a neighbor, one state over, just over the line. Helen Albee's there doing all of these Native American rugs. This is an incredible book. Barbara says, the green combo may mean something to the Cranberry Isles. As I recall, another rug in the same style, same style and color, right about 1900. Interesting. That's interesting, because this is a little bit fresher looking than the Waldoboro. The Waldoboro was more of a mint, like a mint chocolate chip pistachio, I guess I'm hungry, color. This is more of a citrus green color. Um, yeah, it's a little bit of a fresher color of green than the Waldoboro's. This is a different part of Maine. This is a different mission. This is a different group of women. But it has little sort of overtones of the yellow too. I guess in a weird way, isn't it lucky that these were rolled up in a closet for so many years? That's interesting, Barbara. That could well be. I'm going to do a sneaky off camera. I'm not going to hold this stuff up because I want to look at this stuff when we're together again. There's quite a few other rugs from the Maine Seacoast Mission, but that's the only one from the Cranberry Mission in this book so far. Unless at the end they snuck some in, but no, I don't think so. That's really interesting. That's really interesting. I have to say, this book is something else. That's SUMP. This is something else. This is the book. This is available on Blurb, BLURB. Just type in Blurb books, then type in rug hooking. You're going to be amazed at how many books are there. There's a couple that I haven't covered yet. The Theodore Sizer I covered. That's where I got it. That one is a much larger book. This is a smaller book. This is based on an exhibit, right? This isn't a comprehensive book. This is based on an exhibit that was put up. So it's a small book, but this is what we've covered so far. Hold on, Joss. This is what we've covered so far, right? And I'm hardly showing you any of it. And we've got this left. So I'm not going to race through it. And I'm going to put a bookmark into it. And we're going to return to that. Come here, baby. What do you want to show me?
Touch this part and then lick your finger.
No, it's going to hurt me, isn't it?
No, it's not.
It's going to give me a shock.
It's not going to shock you.
Is it going to give me an electric shock?
No.
Do you promise?
Yeah.
She's saying,
touch this part and then lick your finger.
Is it going to zap me?
No. It's a Nintendo SD card. They put that on Nintendo cards to prevent people from swallowing them.
Oh, what is it?
I don't know.
I think I better spit it out. That, I have never tasted that.
I think it's just like a metallic
Here, give me a
flavor.
napkin. That was awful. Here, give me a napkin.
No.
I'm afraid I'm poisoned now.
It's not a napkin.
I know. I'm licking the bottom of a sweater. The bottom of a sweater I'm going to use to hook. Holy mackerel, that was something. Don't do that. Don't do that. No matter how cute the person is who's asking you to do that, don't do that. Well, that was a lot of fun tonight. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Thumbs up. Thank you. I want to say thumbs up. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. It was a great night, a lot of fun. Thanks for looking at the photos with me, chatting about the Cape, and getting into this book with me. I am loving this. Make sure that you are signed up for the Hit or Miss class. I added one new date, and I'll add more if there's another wave of new people coming. Make sure that you are signed up for the Design Light group of 7. That starts this week, too. It is one class. I think it is Wednesday and this coming Sunday. So that is coming up, too. Both of those links are in the description of this video. Patreon members, huge shout out and thank you to you. Always appreciate Patreon members. I always send information, heads up for sales, tickets, events, and patterns. I always send out to Patreon members first because I need the help of Patreon members to keep running shows like this. For the amount of time that it takes to put them together and the running of them and buying stuff to use when we're looking at stuff. I couldn't do this without Patreon members. Thank you so much for all of your help and support. Thank you so much. It was super fun. And remember, I have to go to the wedding on Sunday and I'm coming back Monday, but I'm not sure what time. So I'm going to say, I don't think I'm going to, because I also have to, well, I don't have to get it ready. Let's do a to be continued. It might be that I run a later show. It might be I run a show right before or right after Kirsten's Hookin' on Tuesday. Maybe that makes more sense. Let's do that. Let's say Tuesday. Hookin'. Kirsten runs her Hookin' from, 11 till 1. So why don't we go... By the way, most people said they would like to move coffee time earlier, back to the 11 o'clock slot, at least for the summer. And I like that too, so it doesn't cut my day in half. So I think going forward, at least for the time being, I'm going to stick with the 11 o'clock slot, except for Monday. On Tuesday. Monday, I'm not going to run my usual Monday, Wednesday, Friday thing. I'm going to run it Tuesday. So on Tuesday, I will be with you at 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, because I will be traveling on Monday. So we will pick up this book, 3 Centuries of Hooking, from Blurb Publishing. It's a publishing house. We'll pick that up at 10 a.m. different time, Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday. Yes, go ahead, show it, and then we're going to log off. Oh, Oh, that's pretty, isn't it? What is that, slime?
This one was spilled. It feels weird.
All right. Well, I got water all over the place. And I need one of those ice cream bars. I will see you all on Tuesday. Have a great weekend. And please let me know if you want to do something for the Halloween book.
I think
Or
need
if you
more
want to contribute
Nintendo
something
cards.
to Magpie Times, the next issue, the country fair, something harvest, seasonal, autumny. Let me know. ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com.